Hey guys, I just wanted to come on here and kind of talk to you about motherhood, because I feel like motherhood is such a beautiful gift that that God has called us to if you're a mom, and how that is like one of the most important things besides marriage and the Holy Eucharist that we could possibly be involved with in our life is motherhood. I think that the majority of women understand that and realize that it's a huge responsibility. It can feel really overwhelming sometimes. For me, motherhood was so hard at the beginning. My first one was good, but I was like a crazy wreck all the time. And my second one, Jacob, was just a very, very hard baby. Just very hard. Everything was hard. He only wanted me. He was super happy one minute and super sad the next. So he's kind of been a challenge for me. And then the last two have actually been really easy. They're just really easygoing, just play easy with each other. I don't know if it's because like there's other kids that happens, or if that's how God made them. I don't know, but motherhood has actually gotten easy for me. So if you are struggling in motherhood, it's okay. I promise it will get better. I remember struggling so much and thinking that I was alone in it. Everyone else seemed like they just had it all together, and I felt like I was drowning, like literally drowning. Like I would never have my life back, that it was just going to be hard the rest of my life. It's funny because people are like, oh, it flies by so fast. Like, enjoy it while they're young, which is so funny because I remember being like, this is not fast. Like, there's nothing fast about this. Like, I feel like every day drags on like you wouldn't believe when the two younger ones were little. Now that they're older, it is going so fast. But I remember watching a movie called Mom's Night Out, and it just, oh my goodness, it helped me so much. It was pretty much a husband and wife, and she had, I think, 3 or 4 kids, and she was so overwhelmed with life, like just so overwhelmed. She like was hiding in a closet, and her husband found her like eating a bag of chocolates and watching birds on YouTube or something. And he's like, what's going on? And she's like, it's just so hard. Like, it's so hard. And I remember connecting with that character in the movie so much. I just remember like feeling like, okay, other people feel this way too. It's not just me. And I want to tell you, if you're there, if that's where you're at right now in motherhood, it does get easier. It's still a challenge. Like, I remember a friend telling me that, you know, once all the kids can buckle themselves in at, when it's time to get in the car, then you've got it made. And we're almost there. Zachary can buckle himself in, and Bella is getting close. She really wants to, but she still can't do it. But it is true. Like, I feel like it's finally like, oh my goodness, I can talk to them, I can communicate. I still have to give them baths and, you know, help them in the bathroom and all of that, but it's just so much easier. It does get better. I found a group of women who had young babies just like me, and we just clicked because we would ask each other questions, like, what do you do, you know, when they're teething, or they're not sleeping through the night, or they have diaper rash, whatever it was. This group of women, oh my gosh, they were heaven sent, because they were all going through it too. Like, they were struggling with it as well, but like, we all helped each other. I think having a support group is so important. That was huge for me. And if they're Catholic, even better, because they kind of get you on probably a different level, you know, in different ways. But I will say motherhood is very sacrificial, and I think that sometimes, like in this world, we learn that the world's about us. like that everything should revolve around us. And so when we have motherhood, it's like a, whoa, like this isn't about me. This is about this little baby that keeps crying and I can't figure out why they're crying. And it's a shock, I think, to our system, because that's probably not how we were before. Like, it wasn't all about somebody else, it was about us. And I think that God in his amazingness made it that way. I think that he wanted us women to snap out of ourselves and to give glory to God for motherhood. Because I have noticed in my life, and this is true in motherhood too, because like I said, it was very hard at first, but once I realized that, okay, motherhood is hard and it's not about me, and I started to enjoy it. Because before it was like, I was like, oh, I can't wait for bedtime because then I get my me time, and I'd like try to get the kids in bed as soon as possible, and I'd be anxious and annoyed if they made any noises or, you know, wanted another hug or whatever it was. And once I realized that, no, my life is supposed to be sacrificial. Like, it's supposed to not be about me. It's supposed to be about loving these children, because that's how I'm loving God. Ultimately, these children, they're God's children. They're not even mine. I mean, they are in a sense, but ultimately they're God's children. And so once that clicked within me, there was a peace that is like supernatural. Once I realized, like, okay, it's not about me, it's about sacrificing. So even when the kids are asleep, that's when I usually do my chores, or, you know, I do my house cleaning and I do my YouTube videos, and I'm still giving. And I know that the world is like, yeah, but you need your you time, you. And I mean, to an extent, that is true. I mean, Jesus went up to the mountains and he had a, you know, for 40 days, like, he needed his time to regroup, you know, and to have union with God. And so I think that is very important. But we're in a very unique spot, because like, motherhood is 24/7. Like, if my kids wake up in the middle of the night throwing up or scared, we have to deal with that. You know, yes, our husbands do too. They're in it as well. I'm not leaving them out. But that's something that obviously I'm going to wake up and worry about my child. And it's just something that never goes away. And I've heard once they're all grown up, it still doesn't go away. So, but what I love about motherhood is I feel like it's so much like God the Father. Like, God the Father is letting us have just a taste of what he must feel like. You know, think about that. Like, we are constantly giving of ourselves. God is constantly giving of himself. And, you know, at some point our children grow up and they move away, and they might come see us like every weekend, or they might go away and never see us again. You know, and that's like God the Father. Like, he's given us so much. And how many of society don't even go to church on Sunday, don't want to. They're like, oh, I'd rather sleep in, or I'd rather watch the football game, or, you know, all these things. Like, think about it as a mother or a father's perspective. Like, you work so hard on helping form your child, and what if one day they just go off and they don't want anything to do with you anymore? Like, they don't show you their grandchildren, or you know, make you a part of their life. Can you imagine? Like, oh my gosh, my heart would hurt so bad. And of course, it's not something that I could force myself on them, because that's not what love is. Like, obviously you want to communicate back and forth, but if they choose not to be a part of my life, then that's something that I have to be okay with, you know? Anyway, like, deep thoughts. Definitely thought about that. Like, all these people who have children and just God is nowhere on their radar. I'm like, can you imagine your child someday not wanting to be a part of your life? Like, that's the same thing as God the Father. Like, I can't even, anyway. But talking about motherhood here. So motherhood, our goal, the reason God chose us as the mother and the father, is to bring our children to Him. That is the ultimate goal. Now the world is going to say, oh, it's all about whose child is the smartest, who has, gets straight A's, academic, all of that, or whose child is the best on the football team, or, all these things, or whose child is the lead person in the play, or the drama, or the musical. That's what, a lot of society says is what makes you a good parent. If your children do this and you're, all this, that is a bunch of crap. I'm just here to tell you. Sure, those things might be cool and good, and that's great, good for them. But our goal as a parent, through the eyes of God, is their soul. First and foremost, their soul is the most important part of them. And so much of our society could care less about that. And it boggles my mind, like, when you think about it, because it's like, okay, you're not teaching your children anything about God. You're not talking about Jesus or bringing them to Mass or church on Sunday. Like, there's a problem there, because how are your children going to learn the faith, going to learn about Jesus, if you're not even showing up to the plate? And we are going to be held responsible. Now, this isn't like, I know there's a lot of people who their kids are already grown and out of the house, and this is not something to make you feel bad if your children aren't practicing, because that is ultimately, they decide that. That's something that they have to decide on their own, is if they decide to be Catholic and they decide to live faithfully. That is not us. Yes, God might use us to help them with that, but like, my mom was a very devout Catholic, and some of her children don't believe in God anymore, and some of them don't go to church. They believe in God, but they don't go to church. And she drilled it in us, like, Sunday Mass is an obligation. Like, she drilled it in us. Like, we all know the rosary, we all know God's glory, but ultimately our children get to decide who they are. All we can do is encourage them, bring them to Mass, talk about Jesus, talk about the Catholic faith. Why do we believe what we believe? Glorify God. And I think that's what it is. I think that when kids see their parents so happy, glorifying God, not necessarily pushing it on them, but just being that living example of God's love, then that is when children will want that faith. Yes, we do need to bring our children to Catholic Church and to, teach them the faith and all of these, but ultimately they get to decide, and they're gonna want to live a life that is good. And if you show them that, living a Catholic faith is good and fun and wonderful. Yes, there are hard times. We've got Lent. We have, all these different aspects that are hard, but ultimately God is amazing and He loves us and He is merciful. They're going to be attracted to that, and they're going to want that, and that is what we want for our children. We want them to glorify God, to want God in the end. And I am just thankful that God is letting us be a part of that. That is so awesome that He is letting us proclaim. So even if you're like, oh, I don't have the gift to evangelize or whatever, you're a parent, you need to evangelize. You need to talk about God. Don't have to shove it down their throat, but little things here and there, talking about the glory of how amazing is this beautiful day, you guys. God is so good. Just little things like that. Doesn't have to be an annoying something, like, let me tell you what the catechism says here and here. Yes, that's awesome, and you can definitely share that, but it doesn't have to be like that. It can be just like glorifying God through your daily life. and stuff. So anyway, we have a big responsibility. It is a huge responsibility, and it is awesome that God has chosen us, and we need to rise up to that challenge and just glorify God. It shouldn't be hard. It shouldn't be like something that's overwhelming to us. It should be a part of our life. It should be something that is joyful and loving and wonderful. So anyway, I know this was kind of all over the place. I let the Holy Spirit lead me. So I hope that somebody gets something out of this. Just know that God chose you to be the parents of your children. And you're going to do great. If you give it all to God, He will give you the grace and what you need. Just purify your heart, purify your soul. Don't be distracted by the world with Pinterest, with, you know, Instagram, YouTube. Do that on your me time, but be focused on your children and love them, because they do grow up fast. It is true. And just be in the moment. Read books to them, play with them, love them. So anyway, until next time, I will see you all later. God bless. Bye.